In moments of absurdity, the internet often reveals its truest self. Hassan Piker, better known as Hasanabi, discovered this yet again when he stumbled upon his name featured among a list of so-called worst content creators on YouTube.
You made a worst YouTubers rated by viewers list?
According to audience reviews. So 5 Minute Crafts has a 1 out of 5 stars for posting unoriginal life hacks and misleading thumbnails that apparently pose major safety concerns for its children audience. Also at 1 star is Hasanabi for his low-effort reaction content and political views. Less than 1
his low-effort reaction content and his political views. Nice, man. Tell me why the internet is not busted. Okay? Tell me why. Yeah. That was some high-effort critique right there. I know. Look, there's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. I'm sure that, yeah, I'm alongside, for my political views, by the way, I am alongside J Station, Dr. Disrespect. I don't even know who these people, and Miranda Sings. Like, at least 2 of the people on that list are like directly trying to predate on minors. Okay. I love that the internet's assessment is like predators, guy who wants universal healthcare and no more wars. Predators, groomers, guy who wants universal healthcare, free college and no more wars. Oh, we are so cooked as a nation, dude. We're so cooked. Oh my God. The internet, bro, look at the number of reviews is literally 13 people. Yeah. My bad, bros. My bad, boys. Sorry. I should have never offended trans people online. I know. It's really up.
Ranked alongside professional provocateurs and disgraced figures of the platform's darker corners. The irony was palpable, a political commentator who argues for labor rights and social reform being slotted next to creators infamous for exploiting children, faking deaths, or weaponizing controversy for views. What should have been an inconsequential online poll transformed into a case study in how digital culture flattens meaning, how nuance collapses under the weight of meme logic, and how moral outrage becomes both sport and spectacle. The list itself, cobbled together from a handful of audience reviews, might have seemed trivial. But Hassan's reaction captured the surreal exhaustion of a public figure forced to navigate a media landscape that thrives on distortion. To be rated poorly for low-effort content or for espousing political views is not merely to be criticized for production value or ideology, is to be inserted into a theater of mass projection where creators become avatars of people's frustrations with the entire cultural order. Hassan's name appearing beside figures accused of serious misconduct speaks to how algorithmic culture erases context. It does not matter that one hosts political discussions and charity drives while another manufactures pranks involving fake corpses. The architecture of virality treats all participants as content first, people second. This flattening of morality and meaning is part of what makes modern internet judgment so performative. For years, Hassan's content, live reactions, political analysis, debates, has been both celebrated and derided as emblematic of Twitch's evolution. To his audience, he's the earnest, slightly sardonic older brother who turns political chaos into digestible commentary. To his detractors, he represents everything wrong with the influencer era: parasitic media consumption, moral grandstanding, and a reliance on outrage as currency. In many ways, this divide is the essence of online culture itself. Every creator who achieves prominence becomes both mirror and monster, a projection of what audiences admire and what they despise. The accusation of low effort is especially telling. It echoes a recurring anxiety about what counts as work in the age of streaming. Reaction content has become the Rorschach test of modern entertainment. Viewers who see value in communal watching interpret it as shared experience, a space where conversation and commentary merge. Critics view it as parasitism, as if the act of reacting in real time diminishes creativity rather than reframes it. Hassan's inclusion on that list for low-effort reactions is not just about his stream format. It's an indictment of a cultural shift where labor becomes invisible. The real-time analysis, the curatorial skill, the sustained engagement, these are not recognized as work in the traditional sense because they don't fit the 20th century mold of production. The old economy rewarded tangible goods, the new one rewards presence. But the internet is not simply indifferent, it's vindictive in its misunderstanding. The reaction to Hassan's political positions has always reflected that. His advocacy for universal healthcare, labor rights, anti-imperialism, positions that in other nations would be unremarkable, are treated online as provocations. His political opponents, particularly in the American culture war ecosystem, cast him as a hypocrite or elitist, someone who espouses leftist values while living comfortably. The critique is less about ideology than identity. He becomes a target not because of what he argues, but because he occupies a position of visibility within a system that feeds on resentment. To some, Hassan's success validates the belief that progressivism itself is performative, that no one truly believes in collective care, they only perform it for clicks. When Hassan looked at that list and laughed at the absurdity of being placed beside figures who had committed genuine harm, he was responding to that flattening of discourse. The list and the logic behind it operate on emotional equivalence. If someone dislikes your opinions, that dislike carries the same moral weight as condemning someone for predatory behavior. In this schema, political disagreement becomes scandal, ideological discomfort becomes crime. This is what he means when he observes that the nation is cooked. Not just politically polarized, but epistemologically confused, incapable of distinguishing harm from disagreement, exploitation from critique. There's also something deeply revealing about the format of the list itself. Audience reviews, a pseudo-democratic gesture of participatory culture that hides how little participation actually matters. 13 reviewers decide that Hasanabi ranks among the worst on YouTube, and this gets aggregated into content that circulates far beyond the scale of its origin. It's a perfect microcosm of how digital truth is produced, not through consensus or evidence, but through repetition. The headline becomes the reality. The irony of Hassan mocking the absurdity of such lists is that his mockery itself will likely be clipped, reposted, and reframed as another example of his arrogance or fragility. The cycle feeds itself. To understand why this dynamic persists, one must recognize that platforms like YouTube and Twitch have restructured attention into moral capital. Outrage drives engagement, engagement drives algorithmic visibility, and visibility transforms into revenue. Within that loop, sincerity becomes suspect. If Hassan defends himself earnestly, he risks being labeled defensive. If he laughs it off, he's accused of arrogance. The system ensures that every reaction can be weaponized. Even his self-aware humor, his admission that the critique is lazy, his acknowledgement that being listed beside predators is absurd, becomes fodder for future critique. The internet does not reward clarity, it rewards friction. This episode also underscores the strange evolution of parasocial politics. Hassan's audience does not simply consume his opinions, they see themselves reflected in them. His critics, likewise, view him as the embodiment of ideological arrogance. To be a political streamer in this climate is to be both politician and target, accountable not to voters, but to algorithms. Every slip, every laugh, every exaggerated gesture becomes potential evidence in the ongoing trial of public perception. When Hassan reacts to being called one of the worst, he's not merely addressing the list's authors. He's performing for an audience that expects him to process, contextualize, and satirize the internet's cruelty in real time. The most striking thing about his reaction, however, is its composure. There's no fury, no defensiveness, only fatigue disguised as humor. The laughter, the sardonic tone, the mock resignation, these are the coping mechanisms of someone who understands the absurdity too well.